College Countdown here. It is the 16th of December, 2025. Josh Neighbors and Jack Allen on 365 Sports, College Countdown, Rogue Media Networks, and 365 Sports. At Josh Neighbors _ on Twitter. He is at Jack Allen TV, and you can find the show at CC Podcast JN as well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of those things. And make sure you guys leave those comments. We always enjoy those comments. It's a lot of fun to read those. Find us wherever you get your podcasts as well. So if you can't watch and if you're driving, don't recommend you watch. Just listen to us. 5 stars in those places as well. So Jack, you and I have just gotten through the grind of high school football, which is nice to be done with that. The grind of college football is just, it's never ending because everything, like the NFL does such a great job of having everything spaced out, right? You know, free agency, their schedule release, everything is just so designed to generate attention and conversation during downtimes, things like that. And they're very, very effective at that. College football, not so much.
I don't know, Josh. I feel like they've gotten to a point where they're starting to spread things out a little bit more than they did in the past. And now with the portal and with all the coaching carousel and with how long the playoffs run, it feels like everything you're drinking from a fire hose all the time. And even for a team like Arkansas that we cover, that's been out of it for 3 months now, it feels like all the news just keeps coming because now it's who's coming in, who's coming out, what assistant coaches. I mean, Arkansas has 16 defensive back coaches at this point in the season. And so it never stops. It never stops.
Like the nickel corner's brother has a coach. Like, I mean, it is ridiculous at this point in time. And the one big story now we're starting to get is, I guess the portal window is not open yet, right? So people are announcing their intentions to enter the portal. But you know what? I'm positive they aren't talking to schools because that would be wrong.
That would be against the rules.
That would be against the rules. So I look like every quarterback is a little bit different, but the big 3 names, at least to me, in the portal were Sam Leavitt, who we knew for a long time, DJ Lagway, who we've known for a while, and then also Dylan Raiola. And I would say it's 3 separate situations because Leavitt was I think it was 3 or 4 star when he went to Michigan State. Goes to Arizona State, has had a lot of success and injuries and whatnot, and is kind of going that Will Howard route of he's in line for a massive payday and could definitely be a quarterback of a championship team. Lagway, we've seen the talent. I mean, I was just watching the series where he was throwing the hospital balls against Ole Miss, and I was like, that is a fast throw. I don't care. It's 4th and 37. I'm like, that is unbelievable. And then Raiola, it's been an up and down type deal. I mean, for them, like there's been some very good. You saw how terrible. Now, this is an indictment on their backup situation, but how awful the offense was without Dylan Raiola in there. So, I think 3 separate situations. But to you, are those the 3 highest? Not the best guys, but the highest coveted in terms of, I guess, name recognition that we're seeing?
I think that's a fair assessment at this point. I think that, and like you said, they come from different backgrounds and different prestige. You have a guy like Sam Leavitt who kind of made his name at the collegiate level doing what he's done at Arizona State, compared to a guy like DJ Lagway, or even to a certain extent Dylan Raiola, who made their names more on the high school level, and you're just hoping that maybe it'll click at whatever the next stop is. And that's why, for me, like, Sam Leavitt's the guy at this point. He's the guy that I think everybody, I mean, you look Lane Kiffin, LSU, they're trying to push all the chips in. They're trying to make that happen, because I think he is the proven commodity at this point that you would want as a quarterback. He's had success at the highest levels. He's played in a playoff. And if you can pair him in the right system, like that's the type of guy that takes you from a playoff team to a championship level team.
Yeah. So, looking at if you go to the transfer portal, rankings from the folks at On3, you do such a great job. Their top 3 in this order, they have Leavitt. And I think, I think it's just kind of like, it's how they're grading them now. They said that, as a recruit, he was a 89.49. Now they have him as a 96.25, whatever that means. Dylan Raiola, they have a slight drop off from where he was before. And then here's a big one that they have ahead of DJ Lagway, Braden Sorsby, who very much, now he is like the most college guy out of all of these guys, I think. Because if you ask me which, to take a quarterback to the next level, Sam Leavitt or Braden Sorsby, I would take Sam Leavitt. I think what you saw in that Texas game, like as and Cam Scadaboo is playing in the NFL, and that's great, but like the guy for them, they had guys at wide receivers looked that they belonged. But like the guy who really did belong out there, like athletically, I thought was Sam Leavitt. Like he moved well. He's got a really good arm. He's a very intelligent player. And so I feel like, he's one of those guys that I think can do that. Sorsby's interesting to me because he does bring a little bit of that, the athleticism as well. It's just kind of hard to say like how much of it was designed of that offense and whatnot, because I feel like the balance of Arizona State's offense is a huge key. But Sorsby is an interesting one. Lagway, I think, is going to be that's the one with, to me, the fit matters the most. Like I think Dylan Raiola is like good. Like I think he's good, and I think he's got some ability. I think that he makes far too many costly errors. And I think he's very aware of that and like doesn't really seem to care. Like he's got to recognize that. Lagway is the guy I think just has the longest way to go of like, he's got these tools. He really just needs to find an offense, learn the offense, learn how he fits athletically in the offense, and then you start to work from there. Like, I think it's been the highest amount of stops and start. I think it's partially because of the conference he plays in. Learning how to play quarterback in the SEC is hard. We see guys go to other conferences all the time and succeed. But to me, Lagway is the most fascinating out of the entire group.
Yeah, I could see that as he's the most, I don't know, fascinating is the word I use, but he's the least predictable, I think, of the group, in the sense of, what we've seen out of him so far in his career has been unpredictable. One day he looks like he's got all the tools. The next he's throwing 4 or 5 interceptions against LSU. I mean, right. And that's part of that, like you said, is life in the SEC and life in growing up in the SEC. I'd be very interested to see where he ends up. I know that whenever I was covering Baylor, they were really high on him and thought that they had a chance. His dad is a Baylor legacy. And so don't be surprised if they're trying to push their name. I love one thing about Sorsby that's been going crazy lately is that apparently his girlfriend committed to Texas Tech volleyball, which means you follow the. So that seems to be the line that everybody's following with him, and I think it makes sense. I think he would fit well in that culture and in that system. Staying and moving within the Big 12 would be interesting. It's hard to think of Cincinnati to Texas Tech as a Big 12 move, but
right.
But I think he's the type of guy that can keep Texas Tech, level at the level they've been playing.
We'll see how they like Will Hammond. I know they liked him, but I think the issue they've had for the last 3 guys at quarterback, Shuck, Hammond, and for Morton, is injuries. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have really, and it hasn't really mattered who's been calling the plays. They've had a difficult time keeping their quarterbacks healthy. Now, they like the fact that their quarterbacks do take some ownership in the run game. They really do. And those guys, those fast-paced offenses, like just the ability to pick up some quick yardage, makes, just kind of keep just moving. They like that. They like that about those guys. But it cost Tyler Shuck. It's cost Baron Morton. It's cost Will Hammond. So I'd be very, very fascinated to see, what they can do in that area. If you go further down the line, is there anybody who interests you? I think a lot of folks will point to the kid from ECU, Hauser. Right. I feel like he's been around for a long time. Redshirt junior. But there's anybody else that kind of, piques your interest? I want to see the Harvard kid. I love the Ivy League kid, that those kids are able to play an extra year because Ivy Leagues only go for 4. So I'm really fascinated to see where Jaden Craig, the 6'3", also 225. So how about that? Could the Penn State, could get themselves in the market to get a kid like that. I think that'll be fascinating to see. But anybody down the line that really catches your attention that we're not talking about?
One of the guys that interested me whenever his name popped up was Old Dominion's quarterback Colton Joseph. He's somebody that's been kind of fun to keep in the peripherals this year in the Sun Belt. I'm trying to pull up his stats right now as we talk. I mean, he's passing 2,600 yards this season. Ran for over 1,000 yards as well. He's the kind of guy that you've seen him be a playmaker at the lower level. And I'm always interested, this is his chance to come in and try to prove himself at a higher level, just a redshirt sophomore this season. And help make ODU competitive this year, in a way. And so just I
California kid too. So
yeah, he's one of those kids that I think will be fun to see where he ends up. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be in the Heisman conversation next year, but I think he can make a team better by popping up on their roster.
Yeah, and the numbers, for him went up as kind of past temps did. He threw more touchdowns, threw more picks, but like that's normal. And I think sophomore year is where you kind of want to see if a guy's played that much. Like let's start to turn, junior year. I think it's really what you want to see. And also the other part of this is that we don't even know what's going to happen with the players involved, in the 12 playoff teams, right? Like there is still some movement to happen with those guys. Guys like Trinidad Chambliss. So like we'll see if he's going to be getting another year in college football as he makes, his appeal. What happens with guys like, John Mateers needs to come back pretty obviously, right? But there's a variety of guys kind of across the board. I'm interested to see what happens with them. I saw, it's funny, the other day or yesterday, I think I saw a stat that was about the number of quarterbacks from Arch Manning's class. So I guess that would be 23 class.
Yeah.
And there was 9 5-stars, 8 or 9 5-stars. The only one who's still at his original school is Arch Manning. Right.
And he's going to be at his school.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw
as much hullabaloo is made about him. Like the one thing I appreciate about the kid is like, he is like very much just like Warby Parker at a, advertisement aside, which I'm not going to get mad at the kid for doing a Warby Parker ad if they're going to play it, in front of tens of millions of people, first game of the year. Like pretty, like just quiet. Like it's weird. There's so much pressure. People are saying things like, Josh Heupel at Tennessee, does he need to, put pressure on whatever? It's like Texas had a pretty standard, normal 9-3 season where they look good. Their quarterback got better. That they lost a lot of guys to draft last year. And I'm like, who would have thought that Texas is like, they're retaining the good players, and I'm sure they'll get some good new ones in the portal. And they're okay with 9-3. And all right, cool. Jack, who would have thought in this day and age, Texas was like, yeah, we're quiet this offseason.
Yeah, I don't know if okay with 9-3 is the right.
Well,
right
just
term
given
for
the fact that you were in the semifinal,
started.
You played in what, the semifinal last year, and you lost the champion, and also you lost a quarterback, and you're the first time starter who did improve. Like, and you ended the year beating A&M. I think like that. I think what happened this year was acceptable.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I just think you come in with the preseason expectations that they did. Is one of the favorites to win the national title, and with Arch being the favorite to win the Heisman, I don't know if 9-3 is necessarily where anyone would have wanted to be.
What? That was stupid.
Again, I'm just saying. That's why I'm saying like
what game
I
film
think it's fine, but I don't know if Texas fans would say this is what we're okay with this.
Well, no, but just as like a step back, like 9-3, where and here's the thing is if you turn Ohio State into Ohio. Like if you have them switch which team they play, is Texas is probably a playoff team.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, they were, because I saw Sark mention the other day that they're going to reevaluate their non-conference scheduling and how they do it, which I think is very, very smart. Like there's no incentive to play, play that game. To me, there's not. It just, what do they do for you in the end?
At the end of the day, Texas was in the conversation, even though they had 3 losses.
Do you think they were?
What I mean is that people were talking them and people were considering them ultimately. And then also ultimately, like, why Oklahoma gets in over Vanderbilt? It's because they beat Michigan. Right. And they had that marquee non-conference win. Like at the end of the day, it's a risk. It's a risk that has rewards and has, drawbacks. And so, but
that is true.
I will say, I think maybe one of the best things that could have happened for Arch Manning's career is for him to struggle early and get pushed out of the spotlight a little bit, because you look at the second half of the season and, we got to watch him against Arkansas, and he was a different quarterback at the end of the year than he was at the start, which goes to your whole, you want to see your sophomore quarterback get better from the beginning to the end. And he did. And I think it positions him really well as he comes back to, set Texas up for success next season. And if I'm a Longhorn fan, I'm sitting here kind of rubbing my hands together thinking,
I'm
hey,
encouraged.
we might be cooking with something here.
Yeah, I'm definitely encouraged if I'm a Texas fan. All right, let's talk some Michigan. So this might be one of those where they end up getting somebody that they would be really, really fortunate to get if it is in fact Kenny Dillingham. I think that's the name that's bandied about. I think at this point, Jack, that anybody else is the lights reflecting the hell off the table. I think anybody else at this point in time would disappoint the fan base because who else is available out there? We know Kalen DeBoer is not leaving Alabama. I know Jed Fish at Washington is a name that's been bandied about, and I think would be a pretty decent hire. We talked about that last week, but I think Kenny Dillingham is just going to fire people up so much because of his attitude and whatnot. And I think you and I are both pretty big fans of his. I think, Michigan's a pretty well set up job, but I think we both think that he'd probably win there pretty, he'd have success there. Not saying he'd beat Ohio State every year, but I think he'd do a good job. An upgrade in my estimation. I know it's not a continuation of the Harbaugh era and the way they do things, but I definitely think it'd be an upgrade if you're able to get him.
Well, and at this point, you can't really afford to have a continuation of the Harbaugh era. There's just too much. We talk about baggage. There's too much baggage, not just with Sharon, but with anything associated with that program in the last few years, between the Connor Stallion scandal, between Sharon, between everything that's happened in between that. I think you do need a fresh start. And, Kenny Dillingham certainly brings a fresh energy and a fresh life and a fresh start to a program that needs it, if that's the move. But I also we talked about it some last week. It's just, I always have the question, and this is what I talk about. It's the Dan Mullen effect. It's a lot of these guys is you can take programs that are in the middle and bring them to the next stage. It's another thing to take a program that's here and bring it to the top.
Right.
And, that's always the interesting thing for me. It's the same thing with a Lane Kiffin to LSU. We've seen Lane Kiffin take programs from the middle to an exciting place, but can he take them to the top? Can he take an LSU from an exciting place to the top? And
and it's like, and there's something, I mean, to you, is there something, I don't think there's anything tangible. I think sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly. That's why this is the biggest. We can sit here and say all this makes sense on paper.
Yeah.
And it just it never pans out. Kenny Dillingham makes sense in a lot of ways on paper. The question is, can he get the alignment from the boosters and whatever the AD situation is going forward? Can he, get buy-in from the fan base, or are his antics going to rub them the wrong way and drive down fan support? There's just so many variables with something like this, that it's hard for me to say, it feels like it would work, but will it? I don't know. I've given up on trying to know.
He's just got such a good handle on the modern game. I mean, really, really does. I think I just his demeanor and his approach to me is always he's so practical with the way he talks about that stuff. He's so encouraging to his players too. He's hard on them. I mean, you can tell he rides, but publicly, that's I'm talking about this yesterday with somebody about Coach Cal at Arkansas for basketball. And the one thing that he does publicly, you can tell, is that he takes accountability, and he really does not use players' names if it's going to be majority negative what he's going to say. He'll talk about his guys, talk about the players, the team as a whole. He will never single a guy out. And if he does usually say something bad about a play or something, he'll usually mention another play that went well. But behind closed doors, that's the guy who's going to be challenging people and obviously holding them accountable. But publicly, he takes accountability. And I think that that's something that Kenny Dillingham is obviously very, very smart about. And look, he's a little bit of a lunatic, a little bit of crazy, but so is Curt Cignetti, and it's really worked out well for him. I would say Ryan Day. Ryan Day can be ho-hum at times, but Ryan Day and Mike Elko are they're a little prickly, sandpaperish. I guess the best way to say it at times. But even Saban was as well too, right? So there's no secret sauce to, I guess. But what makes the big question? What makes Curt Cignetti? What makes it just he's just nuts. People were showing the 60 Minutes clip the other day. They're like this, and I'm like, what? he's doing what every coach does. Say, oh, we play fast system, play hard. It's like, yeah, like you've to me, what he does is like, I just identified talent really well. We played very, very hard. I've identified the places we had to upgrade, especially a quarterback this year. We got, a different kind of cat that was undervalued, and like, oh, he's really good at finding the inefficiency. That's what he wants. That's what he's all about. Kenny might not be as good at finding the inefficiency, but I think he makes up for it in like the way that players feel about him as a coach and the way that he's able to motivate them.
The one thing that's interesting is that when I think about Kurt Cignetti, when I think about Ryan Day, when I think about a lot of these successful Nick Sabans, they're a lot more CEO, like really good at running the people around them. And that's something that Kenny Dillingham does, but in a much different way than those people I mentioned. And so that's the curious thing for me is how does that translate to a bigger program, to a program that's got a little bit more weight of expectations, a little more weight of history and how people expect things to go. Because, he's a little bit more, it feels like, in the weeds with the players than some of these other more CEO style head coaches that we've seen have success.
Right.
And so that's why, like, part of me feels like a Jed Fish almost fits a little bit more into that model of coming in and being the more like put together, stoic,
buttoned up
face. Yes, buttoned up is the good word for it.
Yeah. But would you call Kurt Cignetti buttoned up? Because like he's older, and it's more like, and like is what he's saying is more of a buttoned up strategy, but also then he'll be like kill everybody. Like he's like talking, and I love that about him. Like, I mean, but like you watch his press conferences, I mean, like he is just, you can tell he's a Saban guy. So process driven. So process driven. He's like the very much like the football that happens on Saturdays is a byproduct of what we do the rest of the week. Not like we're not building, like what we're actually doing is Monday to Friday, right? Sunday to Friday. Saturday is the byproduct. Is how I feel and that's how I felt about Saban, right? It's really how you felt about Saban, when you hear him talk. Like, he celebrates, but it's like, but it is grind. And I mean, it's crazy. He's grinded his way to number one. And obviously if Kenny can get there, it remains to be seen. But yeah, I love that about Cignetti. It's crazy they're number one, isn't it?
Insane. Well, and it's funny that, like, you're talking about Indiana Heisman Trophy winner, number one team. They haven't won a bowl game in like 40 years, I think.
Yeah. Still haven't, right?
Yeah, they still haven't won a bowl game. And so we'll see if that changes in the Rose Bowl this year. Right? Rose Bowl?
Yeah.